All right, let's just jump right into the absolute chaos and, honestly, the brilliance of this expanded 2026 FIFA World Cup. For the first time ever, we've got a staggering 48 teams competing across North America. And with this massive expansion, the data pouring out of round one is it's fascinating. Seriously, if you've been filling out a bracket or placing bets based purely on historical dominance, this data proves you've kind of got to throw that strategy right out the window. We are talking massive statistical anomalies, jaw-dropping upsets, and individual performances that are literally rewriting the script we all thought we knew.
So, what actually happens when you invite 48 teams to the biggest World Cup in history? Well, you'd probably expect the traditional heavyweights to just steamroll the competition, right? Especially when they're up against debutants or nations sitting way down the FIFA rankings. On paper, it looks like a complete mismatch. But man, the numbers are telling us a wildly different story. Looking at the data from the first 24 matches, the main takeaway isn't about the Giants dominating. It's actually about how these underdogs are digging in their heels and making every single minute count.
First off, the sheer offensive output so far is staggering. We saw an unbelievable 75 goals across those first 24 matches. To put that into perspective, that's a record-setting average of 3.12 goals per game. The tournament just kicked off with this explosive, high-intensity attacking rhythm. Teams aren't just sitting back and playing it safe. They're absolutely going for it and trying to make their mark from the very first whistle. And within that massive offensive explosion, we had 15 decisive victories. This tells us a bunch of teams came ready to immediately stamp their authority and snatch up those crucial 3 points right out of the gate. But wait, let's do the math here. If there were 15 wins out of 24 matches, that leaves 9 games completely unaccounted for. And honestly, this is where the story gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, that leaves a staggering 9 draws. Think about that. A massive chunk of these opening games ended in a tie, making this the highest proportion of ties at this stage in World Cup history. You'd think a wider skill gap with 48 teams would mean way fewer ties, but the exact opposite is happening. These underdogs are proving to be incredibly stubborn and super difficult to break down.
Take this matchup, for example. It was the ultimate clash of beasts. You've got mighty Spain, ranked number 2 in the world, going up against Cape Verde, ranked 67th and making their absolute debut at the World Cup. The odds makers had Spain at minus of 1,500 to win. I mean, a sure thing, right? Yet, the match ended in a stunning 0-0 draw. Cape Verde literally went toe-to-toe with a giant and did not blink once. And for Cape Verde's coach, a 0-0 tie isn't just a fun little stat. As he put it so perfectly, it means everything. For these underdog squads, pulling off a point like this isn't just a number on a spreadsheet, it's a historic milestone that completely rewrites the narrative of modern football. Earning a point against a former world champion changes the entire dynamic of their group. It proves without a doubt that they belong on this stage. And the craziest part? This wasn't some isolated fluke. These so-called minnows are throwing up shields everywhere and deflecting whatever the Giants throw at them. Just look at these results. New Zealand, the absolutely lowest-ranked team in the whole tournament at 85, tying Iran 2-2. Saudi Arabia frustrating Uruguay, Egypt holding back a totally star-studded Belgian squad, and DR Congo stunning Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal with this incredibly organized defensive block. It's an underdog uprising, for sure. It's getting to the point where the top managers are having to face the music. After failing to break down Cape Verde, Spain's coach came to a pretty stark realization, summing it up perfectly. There are no small opponents here. The traditional powerhouses are very quickly realizing that their historical dominance guarantees absolutely nothing on the pitch in 2026. You can't just show up, flash your badge, and expect to win based on reputation anymore. Now, the underlying data shows us exactly why these giants are stumbling. When we dive into expected goals, which basically measures the actual quality and likelihood of a shot going in, teams like Spain, Uruguay, and Turkey were totally dominating possession. But they were settling for really desperate, low-percentage strikes. Look at Spain. They averaged just 0.08 expected goals per shot. Sure, they had the ball, but the underdogs forced them into taking terrible angles and these low-value prayers from way outside the box. It's essentially defensive fortitude turning into a statistical nightmare for the favorites. We also really have to talk about the money, because the financial gap between these rosters is astronomical. Germany's starting 11, for instance, was worth over €500 million more than Curaçao's. Now, Germany actually did make their financial superiority count in a ruthless 7-1 thrashing, but other top-tier teams, they couldn't translate their massive squad values into expected goals, let alone victories.
The data is proving a very harsh truth. All the money in the world cannot buy you a clear shot on goal if the opposing defense is perfectly organized.
But hey, amidst all this team chaos and these wild defensive masterclasses, pure individual brilliance still managed to shine through. And really, who else but Lionel Messi? He reminded literally everyone why Argentina are the defending champions by securing a flawless, incredibly rare 10 out of 10 SofaScore rating. He didn't just score a hat-trick against Algeria, he carried the ball over 250 meters, hit a top speed of almost 31 kilometers per hour, and won 100% of his tackles. Just an absolutely statistically perfect performance. Meanwhile, on the complete opposite end of the pitch, we've got another hero of the data. Cape Verde's veteran goalkeeper Vizinha went completely viral, playing like he literally had 8 arms guarding that net. And the numbers totally back up the hype. A 9.7 rating, 7 saves, with 6 of them coming from inside the box. He single-handedly prevented 1.45 expected goals to lock down that historic draw against Spain. He dominated his penalty area like an absolute boss. We also saw some truly spectacular breakout performances from Arab stars who stepped up massively on the global stage. Egypt's Imam Ashur snagged a 7.9 rating with a brilliant goal against Belgium. Morocco's Ismail Saibari stunned Brazil, while Saudi Arabia's Abdelallah Al-Amri and goalkeeper Mohamed Al-Wais put on absolute defensive clinics against Uruguay. These guys are proving, without a doubt, that they can deliver elite statistical performances against the very best in the world.
So it really begs the question, with the underdogs pulling off these massive draws and the expected goals data showing the Giants struggling so hard to create high-quality chances, are any of the pre-tournament favorites actually looking like true champions? Basically, who is actually surviving this round 1 chaos? Well, the answer lies with these 4 unshakable heavyweights, at least according to the BBC's power rankings. We're talking France, England, Argentina, and Germany. They completely avoided the upset bug. They didn't settle for draws. Instead, they delivered commanding multi-goal victories in their opening matches to really cement their status as the absolute teams to beat. And how exactly did they pull it off? Unlike the teams that settled for those low-probability desperate shots from outside the box we talked about earlier, these 4 giants used clinical, data-driven efficiency. France sliced right through Senegal with 2 through-ball assists in a rapid 16-minute spell of just pure incision. England generated a tournament-high 7 big chances, capitalizing perfectly on set pieces. Argentina's suffocating block allowed Algeria a mere 12 touches in the entire penalty area. And Germany's defense, anchored by Schlotterbeck, was quite literally a wall. They played smart, calculated, winning football. So, as we gear up for the next round of matches, I want to leave you with this to chew on. Will the data finally catch up to the underdogs? Can teams like Cape Verde and New Zealand really sustain these magical defensive masterclasses? Or will the heavyweights inevitably adjust, find those high-probability shots, and just crush the Cinderella stories? Has this 48-team expansion permanently rewritten the rules of the World Cup? Honestly, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch the numbers unfold. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on the data.